All right, I'm excited about this one because I get to do a review for the lovely Kathy White, who has been a subscriber of mine for a while. She comments all the damn time. She's an absolute freaking sweetheart, and I really, really, really appreciate her donation, her support, her comments, her existence. She's pretty rad. So thank you to Kathy. This one's for you. Now, she had picked a few different titles for me to cover here, and I picked May, which I feel like is a fan favorite in the horror genre world, like with the horror fan base. I don't know many people who aren't a fan. Of course, there's always going to be detractors, but for the most part, this seems to be a universally liked film. And for that reason, I thought this would be a fun one to cover. So, this is free on Vudu as well as Tubi if you haven't seen it. This stars Angela Bettis and also has Jeremy Sisto and Anna Faris. Anna Faris is unbelievably adorable, hot in this movie. I remember the first time, I don't know if it was the very first time I saw her, but I remember the time I remember seeing her was in the first Scary Movie. I just thought she was unbelievably adorable in that film. So I think this predates that movie. I could be wrong. I don't know. Regardless, my very first memory of ever seeing Anna Faris was in that movie. And I just thought she was the cutest fucking thing. And in this film, she is very, very fucking attractive. As well as the girl that she starts having her little side fling with, whatever the hell her name is, with the legs. Whew, Jesus Christ. What beautiful, beautiful women. Angela Bettis is, I feel like, I don't want to say the saving grace of this film, because that wouldn't be an accurate statement, but she makes the movie 100% for me. That being said, I feel like this film attempts some form of a sympathetic villain, sympathetic character, but I feel zero sympathy for her in this movie. Not only is she a total fucking loon, but also she's a total fucking hypocrite. So I don't feel it for her. I get it. There's the opening sequence where they show her as a kid and she's being bullied, and is bullying bad? Sure. I was bullied like a motherfucker. Am I a total goddamn lunatic who goes and cuts people up because they don't want to be my girlfriend? If if getting rejected by a chick I was into set me, into the deep end, or however the fuck that saying goes, off into the deep end, or for some reason that's none of that sounding right. Whatever it is, off the deep end, is that right? Whatever the fucking saying is, I would be like 20,000 leagues under the sea. Okay, let's just say that. I've been devastated by women, and I've devastated women. I'm not going to try to sit here and say I'm some fucking saint who hasn't broken my own share of hearts. I sure as shit have. There you go. I have led girls on in my past, and I've been led on. I'm not a perfect guy. I don't think any of us are. I'm just willing to admit it. But yeah, just within this film, with our journey into May's life, there's moments where I'm supposed to be feeling sympathy, and I get it, but I just don't fucking buy it. Like, I just don't. I get it. Angela Bettis does a good job portraying this character, and I can understand why someone would be sympathetic to her. But I almost feel like that's sounding like a negative. It's not at all, because I'm somebody who very much respects films for not being black and white. And I don't mean color or black and white, people. Come on, you know what I mean here. I'm talking about like subtleties and nuances, and things aren't so easily labeled. Like, the characters in this, I feel like every character in this is kind of shitty. Like, there's no real good character in this movie. When I say good character, they're all pretty good characters, especially May. She's a great character, but what I mean by that is none of them are good people. From what we get from them, I don't know what their everyday life is, but what we see of them, Anna Faris is a shit. She's a total fucking shit. May herself is a total loon, as I said, and is completely hypocritical. I'll get to the hypocritical part in a minute. Jeremy Sisto's character in this, Adam, he's a dick. He's a fucking dick. For real. The shit he pulls on her in the house, some of the stuff he says to her, he's a fucking dick. I get it. She's nuts, and he should have pulled away from her. But the shit he does to his new girlfriend, who's also adorable, man. All the chicks in this movie are hot. But Lucky McKee, I feel like, gets hot chicks. All cheerleaders die and stuff like that, or the woman, or whatever. He gets very beautiful women, so that's nothing new. But the way he treats her, like, lets her fall on the ground and all, and like doesn't help her up, and calls her a fucking a moron or an idiot, you fucking idiot, or something. Like, he's an asshole, okay? And as I said, like, the chick who she meets, who works with the kids, she's like, oh, they're, you know, what kind of special are we talking about here? Retards? Or, like, she's a fucking cunt. Holy hell, she's an awful person. And then the Frank from freaking Donnie Darko, whatever the hell his name is in this, Blank, right? Yeah, Blank. He's a dumbass. He's a total dumbass. So he's like, comes into her house like, oh man, I'm burning up. Can I take off my shirt? Let me rub ice on my nipples. Like, you can't fucking take this guy seriously. And his hair is the most jack shit I've ever seen in my life. I don't know what the hell I'm looking at there. So no one's likable in this movie. So as I said, like, the way this would play out, usually, if they were trying to make her a sympathetic character, is everyone would be fucking her over left and right. This would be a Carrie scenario, which, of course, ironically, Angela Bettis did play Carrie in the television remake of that, or readaptation, if you will. But typically, yes, that's how it would play out. It would be very obvious that Adam and Polly and everyone was horribly against her, and she was being wronged right and left, and the only thing that was wrong with her was how odd of a person she was. That's just not how this movie plays out. Not in my eyes. That might be how some other people see it. I just don't see it that way. Like, she's totally two-timing in this movie. She has, like, her side thing with Polly, and she's also, like, for Adam. And when Adam leaves her and she's all upset, then she goes to Polly, and when Polly has someone at her house and she's like, what? Like, you're my main thing. If you want her to leave, like, you can come in. May has no right to be upset with Polly at all. Like, she is in love with Adam. She wants to be with Adam. Polly is her side thing. So she's going to get mad at Polly for having a side thing? Get the fuck out of here. Like, am I supposed to feel like Polly is, I feel like Polly's more of just like an oblivious idiot, more so than a bad person. Like, now I'm really thinking about her character in this. I don't feel like she ever does anything all that wrong. Like, she has her thing. So yeah, I'm going to take that back. I think Polly's the only real sympathetic character in this, because she's just kind of an oblivious idiot. She has a crush on May, but she wants it casual. She's very upfront about it. When she answers the door, she's like, oh, this is it. She doesn't try to hide it. She's like, oh, this is that piece of ass I couldn't pass up on. Like, you should come in and join us. Like, if you're into it. Oh, you're not into it? Okay, I can tell her to get the fuck out, and then you're my main girl. Like, I don't know. I kind of put my foot in my mouth a little bit. I guess Polly is a good character. Like, a good person. She's just kind of an idiot. A real hot idiot. But an idiot nonetheless. So, yeah, I retract my previous statement and say she's all right. But that all being said, May is the hypocritical asshole here in that situation. All right, anyway, okay. That's, I have a lot of notes here, but I really wanted to tackle a lot of those things. I'm going to warn you guys, though, up front, and I do have a really kind of twisted, fucked up story from my real life. Now, I get a lot of people talking about how they love when I talk about my own personal stories and this and that. So, your mileage may vary on your, taking to this, but it reminded me of something in my childhood. I almost never talk about my childhood except for like really broad strokes of like, I hate my mom and my childhood sucked. That's really pretty much as far as I've ever delved into my childhood on this channel. Outside of like having the mask from Halloween 4, something like that. That's not really attached to the traumas of the past. But there is something in here that I cannot help but discuss at least it for a moment. So one of the things, not obviously all of them by any means. So don't worry, this isn't going to be some like, Alcoholic Anonymous kind of speech where I'm going to be pouring all of my past on you. But just fair warning, it's not a fun story. So, but I have to bring it up because it does pertain to something in here, and I feel like I've gotten to know so many of you now that I feel comfortable talking to those of you who you know who you are. Anyway, so okay, let's get back here. Yeah, I like the phrase, "If you can't find a friend, make one." That plays throughout the film. Her lazy eye in this movie is kind of funny. But what I don't know, lazy eyes are tough because I never know. Like I do feel uncomfortable when I talk to somebody with an eye that's kind of wonky because like I genuinely don't know where to look. And I feel uncomfortable because I don't want to ever feel like I'm making that person realize that I'm noticing. Not that they wouldn't already know that I probably am noticing. I'm sure it's something that they think about a lot, or maybe hopefully they don't think about it almost at all, but I can only assume, that they probably do. And when I am around someone like that, I'm always just like, I don't want to look at them. I do though. I force myself to because I am always like, oh, I bet that's how everyone acts. But there is like, it's like, I really have to focus. I'll be like, and I genuinely don't know what eye to stare at. I don't, because when you look at someone's eyes, you know where to look. They're deadlocked. It's very simple. But when it's not, I don't know. Like, can they tell? Can they tell when one eye's fucking over there or no one over's here? I'm like, I don't know. Does it look like I'm not looking at you? God, I hope it is. Could I date someone with one? Yeah, I mean, I guess. I've always asked myself this question. I think the first time I ever posed this question was when I watched Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo, and his girlfriend was missing a leg. And I was like, would that bother me to date someone who was missing a limb like that? And I was like, no, I don't think so. Like what? And then I started to kind of go through the physical abnormalities. I know that this isn't like the most flattering discussion. Like I'm sure shit people would be frowning upon even considering things like that. But I think it's a very real thing, regardless of how you feel about that. Like, people have biases. People have their own desires. People have things they can and can't look past. Like, I don't know. I feel like we live in such like this time in which we try so hard to be pleasant and try to pretend like we have no faults and like we don't think terrible things at points, or we don't think of things that would label us as less than favorable in those moments. Like, fuck all that. Like, I like to just be honest about things. I think it makes people a little more comfortable once they're allowed to just feel how they feel, And so anyway, I don't know where I'm going with all of that. All I'm saying is like, we all have those thoughts. Like, where, ooh, I don't know, how do I feel about this? Where do I feel about this? And I don't know where my limits would be. I don't know. I don't know. I've thought about it, and I've kind of seen a bunch of different people in my life, and I'm always and I can kind of pose those questions to myself, like, wow, could I? I don't know. I mean, of course, it always comes down to personality. It always comes down to a certain circumstance, but there are some things that I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Lazy eye. Yeah, I guess so. It would be. It would be interesting though, for sure. But yeah. Anyways, I've just like completely fucked everything up with anybody I have as a subscriber that has a lazy eye and now thinks I'm a monster. I didn't say anything. All right, let's move on. What the fuck am I talking about? All right. Now, of course, this movie is about a girl who's kind of obsessed with a boy and is stalking this boy. And I love that line in the movie Van Wilder. When Van Wilder talks to who the fuck is the chick in that movie, isn't it? Is it Tara Reid? Is that who it is? Shit, I haven't seen that movie in forever. But anyways, he sees her and he's like, are you stalking me? Because that would be great. I'm paraphrasing. I think that's pretty damn close to what it was. And I laughed because, yeah, there's definitely... I've always said this. The difference, pretty much, most times anyway, the difference between a romantic and a stalker is if the chick is into you. So, and that can be the same with men as well, but for the most part, it's with women. I work in a salon where a guy sends a thing of flowers to a chick, and depending on if the girl thinks he's hot or not, or if she's into him or not, it goes from, oh my god, he's so romantic, oh my god, like, that's so sweet, and all the girls are like, oh, isn't that amazing, this and that. But then it's some other guy who they don't find attractive, and who know, like, how would either of them ever even have known? And they're like, what a fucking creep. Like, what is he thinking? This, it's like, what? It's the same thing, and now this guy's a creep. Like, you have to risk being a creep, which is kind of scary, but yeah, so there's that. But it just that when I was watching this and her stalking him and just being like, it's a totally different thing. It's a totally different world with a guy getting stalked by some, fairly cute chick. I mean, Angela Bettis is not ugly. She's, to me anyway, I think she's pretty adorable in this movie. And to be stalked by a chick like that, a guy would more than likely be flattered as opposed to a girl. Now, of course, a guy is a little more threatening. He can physically overpower you most of the time. So I get that the threat is a little different. But regardless, I mean, no one wants to be stalked by someone who has ill intent. And you never know. But we just don't take it the same. Nor does anybody. If you tell somebody that a chick is stalking you, mostly what you get is laughter. Like, oh my god, like, really? That's hilarious. But if a girl says it, of course, they're like, oh my god, let's call the police, and so on and so forth. So, I'm just a storyteller tonight, I guess. I'm going to stick to this movie at some point. And I'll tell you, with Angela in this movie, I have to say, like, this is the kind of girl I probably would have dated in my early 20s, mid-20s, somewhere in that area. I would have no interest in her now, to be completely honest, but back then, I was all about the weird girls, man. I could tell you stories, holy shit, man, of my wild days of promiscuity. I took home some, because you guys will put up with literally insane things to get laid. Like, fucking insane things. I've been around some situations that are so crazy. And I just, thinking back, being like, really? Like, you sat around there? You put up with that just to try to get laid? Like, screwing a girl like May would be disastrous. And it's more than likely not going to be good, because there's two different kinds of crazy. Okay? There's that crazy where the girl's like wild and the sex is amazing, and there's like that crazy look in her eye, and you can tell the difference. And then there's that like really awkward, weird kind of crazy where the sex is just fucking bizarre and awkward and not all that great, and they're just like not really in it, and if they even let it happen at all, like there's something really wrong up there, and it's not attached to their sex drive. And so when you try to have sex with those girls, they're just like, they shut down emotionally, physically, in every way imaginable. So it usually amounts to not a good outcome anyway. So yeah, there's a couple different kinds of crazies, and yeah, there are crazy fun girls, crazy girls who are, yeah, you shouldn't date them. They're way off, but man, is it a thrill in bed. And those are the girls that most men kind of throw their lives away for. Those are the chicks that really drive men to, the edge. They really fuck up their lives. Because when you find a girl who you connect with on that level, where you're fucking just like, there's something there in the bedroom, but like nothing else, I don't know, you lose it all, man. You just freak the fuck out. But with girls like May, in my experience, anytime I've ever went home with a chick like May, and I have, not to this level, of course, she's not biting my finger and rubbing the blood all over herself and you cutting people up in the town and stitching them together as some kind of Frankenstein monster. But yeah, anytime I ever went home with the really awkward, weird head case, the sex is dreadful. It's just dreadful. So putting up with a May is not worth it for any reason. So he's better off that he ran off, but he ends up dying anyways. So it doesn't really matter. And Anna Faris or Polly getting her finger cut and being like, I like it. Yeah, I've known some cutters. One of the crazy ass chicks I was just talking about was a cutter. When I met her, yeah, you'd think back then, now I would know better, but back then I was willing to look past pretty much anything for fun. But yeah, I met this girl and just boom, 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 scars just up and down, lacing her arms, just boom, 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 all masochist. I don't know how you would add on to that. Masochist. No, wait. There's a way to say that, but I don't know how to say it. But yeah, she's just absolutely went to town on herself. And that should have been the giant one red flag I needed. Because, yeah, she was bad when we were together, but she got way worse after we split up. Like really bad, like a homeless vagrant yelling at cars as they were driving past, just super angry at life. Like what happened to her is tragic, but and the sex was absolutely terrible because so anyway, but yeah, unstable. Why do we like chicks that are clearly unstable? That's what I put down here in my notes. I don't know. I know women have this desire to fix men like a motherly instinct, and I guess some guys like me have that like knight in shining armor complex, where we want to save the damsel in distress. We want to be the guy who's there for them and wants to solve their problems and find the diamond in the rough. That's my own thing, so I can't speak for everyone, but there you go. I'll answer my own question there as we go. He gets her to start smoking. That's a dick move. Smoking is disgusting. No judgment? I don't know. No judgment. Everybody can do whatever the fuck they want. I mean, if you want to do drugs and smoke and fucking whatever you want to do yourself, I personally think smoking is disgusting. I would never date a smoker. I think it's horrendous. That said, I do whatever the fuck you want. I really genuinely don't give a shit. Just, we're not dating. I can just tell you that. Sorry, but that's not happening. I know, you're devastated, right? The guys in Argento love to see that. He talks about a decent amount of Argento references within here, even an Argento book that he's carrying. And I like when he goes to stab her, she doesn't even flinch. That fits her character really well. I leave the message after the scream on his mailbox on his phone. I had that. After I saw this movie, I put that on mine because I thought it was hilarious when I heard it. When I saw it in the movie, I was like, "That is fucking so funny to me." Leave your message after the scream, and then I screamed, just like he did. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to be original, and when you find a winner, you stick with it. Good to always hear a real phone number in here. I've talked about that on the channel enough. I'm always going to give it its credit when I hear it. She waits by the phone to get calls from me. She like calls and she waits and she waits and she waits and she's like looking at the phone. Honestly, I mean, I know we all try to pretend like we're so cool and above everything, and we're not like this, and we're not. I'm not like that per se. I'm really not, but I'm not as bad as she is in this. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a whole hell of a lot better. Like when I'm interested in someone, when I contact them, I do kind of do that. Like I'll check my phone every like 5 minutes to see if it's read, to see if they're about to reply. It's something I've worked on for years. Like I very much, like I look forward to it. I want to talk to them. I get very excited. Like I'm a very passionate person. I want a response. I'm looking forward to it. Like I write them for a reason. I really, really want to talk to them. I really, really, really want to see them. I'm really excited about their response. I try not to just hold it in my hand or sit outside their door for 2 straight hours waiting for them. Like that's creepy shit. But to sit here and say that like I don't understand it at all would be a fucking lie. I mean, I wasn't that much better than that in high school when I would, kind of hang out just waiting for my friends to fucking acknowledge me or see me or call me or whatever. I've struggled with that my whole life. Like, I very much want attention. I mean, clearly, I fucking started a YouTube channel. Why do you think I do this? Come on. I want attention. Anybody who has a YouTube channel who says they don't want attention is full of shit. This is the reason we do this. Come on now. But yeah, like I feel for May in that regard, but she just takes it way, 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 way too far. She's mentally unstable. The Jack and Jill short is fun. I like the My Baby and I Like to Do the Hanky Panky or whatever that song is. I like this. I like the movie. It's fun. And sex with weird chicks is almost always disastrous. I gotta start like posting pictures of my notes because they're pretty funny. The shit I write. And I already talked about all that. Did her and Polly fuck? I'm curious on that because they cut away when things start to get, a little more risque. And Polly's into the cutting. So, like, if May bit Polly's finger and rubbed it all over, Polly'd probably be down. She'd probably be like, all right. So, I don't know. It cuts away. What do you think? You think Polly and her fucked? I don't know. I think they did. In my head, I want to say they did. In my head, I want to say they did for later tonight. Just kidding. I'm not going to masturbate to that, promise. Not that you guys give a shit, but that's not my thing. I'm sitting here like, do I want to clarify what I mean by that's not my thing? Like, lesbo sex? No. I love that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not going to explain. Just saying. Fuck, man. May is a hypocrite. I already talked about all this. Blah, blah, blah. I already talked about blank. Like, the blind kid scene is the most bizarre scene in this movie to me. Like, did that really happen? I guess it did. But, like, all the kids crawling around on the glass after her doll broke and just, like, cutting themselves up and going after her doll and grabbing at her. Is that, like, what she saw in her head or what? Because that scene makes no sense. Why would a bunch of fucking kids get on their knees and cut themselves up and bleed all over the place and not be screaming out in agony and what is happening? Like, all of them all of a sudden act like fucking ravenous zombies or something. What is that scene? That scene is completely out there. Because I feel like the rest of this movie is pretty straightforward. Yeah, the characters might be a little eccentric, but the situations aren't really all that crazy. I don't know. Like, the blind kid scene just feels greatly out of place for me. So I don't know what to make of that sequence. I thought for sure it was going to be like a nightmare. And she's like, her face is way more covered in blood. And then in the next sequence, it's just like streaks around her eyes. And then her eyes are like completely bloodshot red. But then in the next sequence, they're completely white. So I was very confused by all of that. I don't understand it at all. Now, real quick, I'll try to make this story as quick as humanly possible. But Blank finds a cat in her freezer. When I was a kid, my cat died, and I had a stepfather who refused to get out of bed. It's a long, long story. He said he was dying every single day, never worked a day in his life, this and that, and we pretty much lived our life under his rule. It was like a dictatorship in the house, and he was, you know, the dictator. He was in charge of everything. And so he wanted to attend the cat's funeral, but he couldn't get out of bed that day for some bullshit reason, and so we had to throw the cat in the freezer. And then that cat was in the freezer for months and months and months and months, right next to all our food and whatnot, just wrapped in a bag. Then another cat died, and that one also went in the freezer. And then our dog died, and that dog was about 35, 40 pounds. It was like a medium-sized dog. Buster Brown, one of my childhood dogs, who actually bit into my ingrown toenail, one of the most horrendous, most painful experiences of my entire life. But not a bad dog, just a skittish one. And that dog died, and we wrapped him in a fucking plastic trash bag and stuffed him in the freezer. And then the power went out one day, and he leaked all over, and then the power came back on, and then he froze into the freezer. And then one day, Jeff finally decided that he wasn't coming down for the cat or the dog's funeral after like 6 months of those fucking animals being in there. And my girlfriend actually found the animals in the refrigerator one day when I was trying so desperately not to let that happen because I was so mortified and embarrassed of that. And she was freaked the fuck out, as anyone would be, as she looks in there and there's some fucking, my childhood pet staring at her like, what in the fuck is going on? If I walked into Norman Bates' house. And then it was my job, I was tasked with breaking that dog out of the freezer and burying all of them, because it was the dog that kind of cocooned itself into the side of the refrigerator freezer. And I couldn't get him out completely, and so I had to start like breaking my childhood dog into pieces and carrying him into the backyard as he leaked all of his remains all over me. It was one of the most horrendous experiences of my entire life, and just a little excerpt of my past. But when I saw this in here, I couldn't help but want to divulge that. Hopefully Kathy White is getting what she wants out of this review. I hope. I'm kind of talking a little more real tonight than well, I usually kind of do this stuff, but that was really depressing. I had to share, though. I had to share. It feels like a sharing night. All right. I'm Jason, and I'm I'm an animalaholic. Oh, fuck, I don't know. All right. And the scene where Polly trusts her, and I'm just going to glaze right. I'm just going to just jump right past that shit, because, it's a depressing story. I know. But the night when she comes over to Polly's house, and Polly's like, I know you'd never hurt me, and then she just slits her throat right in that moment. That's a fucking devastating scene. Like, I genuinely feel bad. Like, that's the only kill in this movie that I genuinely feel bad for. Like, Polly, I was sitting there like, that was brutal. Like when she killed everyone else. I don't feel like Adam's new girlfriend in this movie nobody in this movie deserved to die by any means. But for a movie, like Polly by far and away was the one I felt the most bad for. And then the next down would be Adam's new girlfriend who didn't do shit. I mean, she thought it was funny to invite May in and whatnot. She was being juvenile with that. But I didn't feel as bad for her. But it was just kind of how Polly's death was set up, I guess, is really where I felt the worst about it. I was like, damn, that was brutal, man. She had such trust in her, and she just betrayed it right in that moment. And the look on Polly's face of like, but I trusted you. Fucked up. Just fucked up. You guys know that I can't stand betrayals of trust like that. Like, that's just the worst crime you can commit in a horror movie, is when someone's good nature or trust is betrayed. I cannot handle it. And in this movie, it just got to me. I was like, poor Polly, man. Poor fucking Polly. But yeah. Yeah. I mean, the outfit on the doll at the end, her real doll, is very reminiscent of Sally from Nightmare on Elm Street. A Nightmare Before Christmas, Nightmare on Elm Street. That's funny. And of course, there's heavy inspirations, and of course, Sally has been stitched together, much like this thing. And then she cuts her eye out, which is the opening of the movie, and pops it on there, which seemed like a real lazy thing to do. Cha. Anyway, overall, I feel like what really drives this movie is Angela Bettis's performance. Like, it's a pretty simple film. There's very limited characters. The budget is very small. The plot, concept, everything is minimalistic. So the film is really, really driven purely on Angela Bettis's performance and some quirky moments from side characters, namely Jeremy Sisto and Anna Faris's adorable ass, along with her girlfriend and Adam's girlfriend. So there's some eye candy as well, of course. But Angela gets full credit for this film working at all. Overall, I don't love this movie, but I do really like it. I do understand the love for it. I just feel like there would need to be more to it for me to love it. I feel like the crescendo, the payoff at the end could have been a little stronger, but that whole arm coming up at the end, of course, I feel like this is in her mind. I would hope so, but that kind of goes back to the blind kids in the glass. Like, what the fuck is happening there? Same thing with, of course, the Frankenstein monster's arm coming up, and of course, Blank has the Frankenstein monster tattooed on his arm. So there's a very blatant nod there to what this movie is mirroring in some ways. But yeah, anyways, that's all I got to say about it. But hey, Kathy, you're a doll for real. I always love talking to you in the comments, and I hope you liked this review. I hope shit didn't get too grim for you, or I didn't get too informative about my masturbation habits towards lesbians, or whatever the fuck I was talking about. Love you guys. And yeah, patreon.com if you want to have some crazy ass review. Let me know. Adios.